Welcome to MultiFamily Method, a podcast which explores the state of the multifamily real estate market and some of the backgrounds, methodologies, and words of wisdom from some of today's most successful multifamily real estate entrepreneurs nationwide.
Well, my dad had the best work ethic of any person I've ever met. He saves money, he tracks every dollar that he has, and which is great. But I didn't want to have to live like that. My dad did that out of necessity because he knew every week he got X amount of dollars in his paycheck every 2 weeks, and it wasn't the life that I wanted. I wanted a little bit something more. I had a great upbringing, great childhood, but I wanted something different.
Welcome to the MultiFamily Method, a podcast that explores the state of the multifamily real estate market and some of the backgrounds, methodologies, and words of wisdom from some of today's most successful multifamily real estate entrepreneurs nationwide. Hi, I'm Alex McDermott, host of the MultiFamily Method.
And I'm Jad Risha, co-host of the MultiFamily Method. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be speaking with Matt Brady. Matt is the CEO and co-founder of Willow Creek Partners, which he founded in 2017. Matt has a diverse background in private equity, which helped him build Willow Creek Partners into what it is today. He'll be giving us some insight into his background personally and how Willow Creek Partners was founded. And he'll additionally provide us with some insight into how he grew the business over the last 4 years and what his objectives are for the company going into the future. Welcome to the podcast, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about where you grew up and your early upbringing and how that shaped who you are today.
Yeah. So my father was in the Navy. I spent 25 years there. So as a kid, we moved around quite a bit up until I was about 6. So I was born in Miami, moved to Norfolk, Virginia, El Paso, Texas, Tampa, Florida, and then Washington, D.C. all that time I was 6 years old.
Wow.
So that was a very, very formative time in my life. I like to joke that I was in 3 kindergartens, not because I failed kindergarten, but we moved to 3 different cities while I was in kindergarten. I started in El Paso, went to Tampa, and then went into Arlington, Virginia. We moved to D.C. So my dad was in the Navy 25 years and then retired. We moved to Northern Virginia from there. After we moved to D.C. in 81. Moved to Northern Virginia about 1987 when I was 12. And then I grew up in Northern Virginia, D.C. area, went to school in Arlington my whole life, and then went to Virginia Tech, go Hokies. And then moved down to live in Roanoke for a couple of years after college, and then lived in Raleigh for a few years after that, and then came back to Northern Virginia. So I've been back in Northern Virginia since like 2006 or so. It's interesting. I was talking to my dad the other day. So my dad spent 25 years in the Navy, and it's funny how life sort of comes at you and you realize, I remember moments in time now when my dad was the same age that I am now. And that's a really defiant, right?
Yeah.
That's a really wow. I'm 46. I remember when my dad turned 40.
Yep.
Yeah. And my dad was 43 when he retired from the Navy. He had a 25-year career already by the time he was 43.
And that's when you realize that when your parents were a certain age and you're doing different things than what you remember them doing, you're like, man, I feel old.
Yeah. Or we had a birthday party for my daughter this weekend. She turned 7. And I wonder, if my parents, when they had birthday parties for us, were they doing the same thing during birthday parties that we were doing during my daughter's birthday party?
You started Willow Creek in 2017, right?
Yeah, 2017.
Okay. So, obviously we all know what it takes to start a business in real estate. Just curious, where would you say you got your work ethic from?
Combination of a couple of things. Number one, my father was a great role model. 25 years in the Navy as an enlisted guy, not even as an officer, as a enlisted guy who that's really, really hard work. He enlisted right out of high school because he had no choice. And he would get up and he'd be at work every day before I even woke up every day. He had to be at his desk at 5 a.m. he was always home like 3:30, 4 o'clock. But my dad had the best work ethic of any person I've ever met. He saves money. He tracks every dollar that he has, and which is great. But I didn't want to have to live like that. My dad did that out of necessity because he knew every week he got X amount of dollars in his paycheck every 2 weeks, and it wasn't the life that I wanted. I wanted a little bit something more. I had a great upbringing, great childhood, but I wanted something different. The other thing is, and I'm fortunate of this, is that my father never took me to school because he couldn't. He had to be at work at 5 a.m. I take both my kids to school every day. I've got a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and it's pretty awesome.
You joke around and say that Willow Creek is the first job in real estate that you've ever had. What got you interested in real estate, in finance? You've done a lot on both sides, on the capital and equity side. So what got you interested in all of that?
I'm probably one of the few people that I know that very early on, I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know it was precisely what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something with like finance or investments. And, I go back to, I remember like when I was a kid, like an early teenager, I can remember seeing like the movie Barbarians at the Gate about the leveraged buyout of RJR Nabisco. And I found that shit fascinating. Like the 14-year-old me found that. I didn't know what the hell it meant, what they were doing.
Right.
But, I just saw these guys having business meetings, carrying their briefcases and talking about a lot of money. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I remember what really solidified things for me. I took a economics class my senior year in high school, and I loved it. And I did great at it, and I loved it. And so when I applied to colleges, I remember forgetting my application at Virginia Tech. They asked, what major do you want to be? And I put down economics. I never changed my major, not once. And most people don't do that.
Right.
So I knew from very early on that I wanted to be in finance and investments. I didn't really know what it looked like. First I wanted to be an investment banker. I didn't know what the hell an investment banker even meant back then. I just made a lot of money.
I still don't.
Well, somebody told me one time, very simple to understand what an investment banker does. They take people that have money and they connect them with people that need the money.
Yeah.
Right? That's really kind of like you guys, Alex. You guys take the people that have the properties, need to sell the properties, the people that want to buy the property.
That's right. It's not so different.
Yeah. So in my career, I started off working at Morgan Stanley as a stockbroker. And before stockbrokers became sort of asset gatherers and asset allocators back when we could still actually trade stocks for a living. And then evolved into private banking and wealth management types. And then I went to go work for a small investment firm like 2010 or so here in the DC area. And we started off from there, we had a lot of clients that like to invest in real estate and other kinds of deals. And so we spent a lot of time evaluating those types of opportunities for them. And to the point where we evolved and we started our own firm, our own private equity firm, to invest initially on behalf of our clients. And then we started bringing in other investors from other investment firms throughout the country. We did a lot of cool shit there. We did a lot of venture capital, early stage investing, did some PE, did some private credit or private debt, but we did a ton of real estate. And, within real estate, our biggest asset class was multifamily. And so that's how that evolved. And, even prior to that, I do remember when I was in private banking, I had a lot of clients that were in real estate. And my wealthiest clients were in real estate. And so I was like, let me learn a little bit more about this.
Right. You start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. And I realized I didn't know why, but when I was pretty early in my career, I knew that at some point I wanted to work for myself or have my own company. And I didn't know why, other than the fact that just, the freedom, the control, building your thing. But as I got older and started to recognize it, the richest people, the wealthiest people I knew, the people that made the most money, were people that owned their own business.
Right.
It wasn't the people that worked at, some corporation for, 20, 30 years.
I guess that's
other than just your client base. Like, was there anybody specifically that got you into real estate, or someone earlier in your career that maybe something they said or something you saw from them specifically that led you down this path?
I remember somebody once telling me that this is about multifamily specifically, that the reason why they like multifamily is that people always need a place to live. Nobody ever needs a place to work. And this is playing out more true today than it ever has. And this was 10 years ago when the person told me that. And I kind of joke, and I use it a lot when I'm talking to people. Why we like multifamily? Why not office? Why not these various other types? But it's true, right? And people always need a place to live. And right now, the three of us are having a business meeting over a computer, right? I mean, how many people have had business meetings over their laptop over the last 15 months?
How did I guess the last private shop that you were at, it seems like there's a pretty solid progression. It was going from finance and then getting more into equity and then getting more into multifamily. What made you want to make that jump from really true equity and finance into owning and starting Willow Creek? What was the catalyst there?
Yeah, the ultimate catalyst was there wasn't exactly a consensus view as to the direction of the old firm I worked at, and there was a strong feeling about the direction that it should have gone. And then once we realized that there was no coming to an agreement on that we were going to kind of go off on our separate ways and start a more focused real estate firm. As I said before, this firm did a lot of stuff. They did venture, private debt, stuff like that. And we wanted to be far more focused, on real estate and specifically in multifamily. And so my two partners who you've met, Sal and Fat, they both worked with me at that firm too. Sal was the CFO and Fat was kind of his right-hand man. I don't remember what Fat's title was, but so we started Willow Creek and we left. And as a matter of fact, this coming Wednesday, Cinco de Mayo, is our 4-year anniversary. Not only is it Mexican independence, it's Willow Creek independence.
That's awesome.
Coronas and margaritas in the office then?
Yeah, so my wife says she's going to bring us some breakfast burritos and shots of tequila on Wednesday.
That's nice.
Perfect.
Nice. I like it.
I think we need to head up
Come
to
on
DC.
up, Alex.
Yeah. So then tell us about those early days when you decided to make the jump with your partners, or if they joined you day one, and also maybe the first deal that you did under Willow Creek.
Yeah. So those early days and I vividly remember them. I have fond memories of them, even though they were quite stressful. So when we were at our old firm, we'd already decided to start Willow Creek, and it wasn't a secret. Everybody knew we were doing it, including our old CEO. And to the point where we had struck a deal with one of our partners that we'd invested alongside to buy a couple of their assets off market. And so when we left, we'd had 3 assets under contract already. And so as we're leaving, we're having to deal with some problems when we were leaving. I'll just put it that way. And so we had to fend off that. And then at the same time, we had to focus on, closing these 3 deals because, if we couldn't close these 3 deals, our business was dead before it got started.
Right.
And so that was our singular focus. And so when we left, it was on I think it was on a Friday. It was Cinco de Mayo 2017. And so we met that day. Then over the weekend, we worked a little bit. On Monday, we're like, where do we go? We got a deal to close. We got stuff to do. So there's a hotel here right across the street from our office now. It's in Reston Town Center, if you're familiar with the area. And it's the Hyatt. So we camp out there. We go sit in the lobby of the Hyatt with our laptops. And we work on stuff. And then after a while, so every day at 4:00, the lobby bar would open up. And so 4:00, we'd get ourselves a beer. So that way they didn't think we were completely like loitering and using the free Wi-Fi. So then we decided, maybe we should switch it up. So we found another office building in Tyson's Corner, not too far away. that had a nice big atrium, free Wi-Fi, nice chairs. And so we'd rotate every day between the Hyatt and Reston and this place called the Silver Line Center in Tyson. And so we did that true story, man. It was fun. It was so that was on May 5th or so. We closed our first deals on June 15th. So about, that 40 days or so, we did that. And then we finally got our own office space, I think, we took possession of our first space we leased in like July 15th or so. So the first 2.5 months, we worked out of the lobbies of the hotel and an office, but we were totally like squatters, man.
That's awesome. That's great. Professional nomads.
Yeah. Well, what was funny is that we closed our first deal, paid $36 million for our Greensboro portfolio out of the lobby of an office on free Wi-Fi.
Hopefully you got some beers after that.
We had a lot of beers after that. It's funny because like the day before we were at the Hyatt Reston Town Center, the signing loan docs, getting some notarized. We have to run back and forth like the FedEx Center and, get these notarized and overnight. And it's funny. And we used to joke and say, man, only people like knew what the hell we were doing right now. Right. They thought we were probably like a couple like software geeks like racking out on doing some code or something. And
right.
Buying
not doing an 8-figure real estate transaction from the lobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. A lot of fun though, man. Very, very fond memories if you can tell.
I remember those deals because I BOV'd all 3 of them. And then it's like, oh, well, actually, this is happening. So, yeah. We were like, who is it? Who's Willow Creek? Where did these guys come from?
Well, Alex, I don't think you're alone in that. I think a lot of people had that reaction. Fortunately, we had a good relationship with the sellers, QRs, and they were like, sure, you guys are good. Yeah, we'll do a deal with you.
Yeah.
And, although I suppose that they knew a lot of the backstory, although a lot of it, actually, if they knew some of the backstory, maybe they would have had second thoughts. But most of that stuff actually happened after we had the deals under contract is when the shit kind of hit the fan. So
I gotcha.
But all's well that ends well, though, right?
That's right. So I guess one of my questions is, you're buying from a group that you invested alongside. You have your other old company that was in there, and then you're buying it, you and Willow Creek, right? So that's a pretty hairy transaction just in general. You're touching a lot of nerves in that one transaction or 3 transactions. So then how did you get around that? And then how did you also capitalize it? And that $36 million for your first deal, that's not small.
No, it's not. And those who know me know I don't do stuff half-assed. So it's, you either do it or you don't, right?
Right.
Why dance around it? So, but what's interesting is we were, our old firm was part of the equity in one of the 3 deals.
Okay.
Our capital partner, believe it or not, this group called TerraCap, out of Naples, Florida. So I've known Steve Hagenbuckle since like mid-2011. Okay. So we, at our old firm, we invested in TerraCap's second fund.
Okay.
So we helped seed their second fund coming out of the recession, and they were buying stuff at pennies on the dollar. Yep. They just crushed it, man. They just crushed it. So,
and they were opportunistic. They'd buy anything. They'd buy a warehouse. They'd buy apartments. They'd buy a hotel. They bought anything.
Yeah. Steve Hagenbuck and I, we go pretty far back, and he's such a great guy. And so when we were right around the time, right before we were leaving our old firm, I had actually reached out to him and one of his guys, Mike Davis. And, they said, hey, we got these deals. Don't know what you guys are up to. And so after they looked at the deal, they said, well, what's up? And then, so I explained to them that I was leaving my old firm, and they're like, oh, holy shit, what happened there? And So anyway, we got comfortable, and the timing was fortuitous because they just lost out on like a 3-pack deal, I think like Greenville, South Carolina. And so about the same value to about 30, 40 million bucks. And so they were hungry to put some capital to work. I think it was in their 4th fund. And so the timing worked out. It happened to be great deals. It was a good story for them that they could tell their investors. Completely off market, operator, investor that he's known for a long time. So yeah, that was our capital part in that deal. And Steve and you probably know Albert. Albert's actually in Tampa.
Albert's in Tampa. Steve Good was a guy who I got pretty close to during that transaction.
So one of these days, I'll tell you a story. The first time I met Steve Good, I actually met Steve Good on his very first day of work at TerraCap.
Well, Steve's a Cleveland guy, and I'm a Cleveland guy originally.
Oh, okay.
So we, we were commiserating over Browns games every Monday when we would connect. That transaction basically went through the football season that we did with them. So every week, we're like, I can't believe they lost. That kind of deal.
I mean, you can believe it, but
you can believe it. Well, yeah, it was great, man. I remember. So funny story too. So when, so we talked with Hagenbuckle, and they liked the deal. Had to go meet Good down in Greensboro to tour the assets, make sure they weren't complete dumps. And so Fat, our other partner. So we're all meeting at my house to drive down to Greensboro. I used to have a Yukon Denali at the time. We used to call it the Mobile Command Center. And we always were in my car doing, road trips to go check out deals. And we had to be down there can't remember what time, 1:00 in the afternoon or so. It's a 5.5 hour trip from Northern Virginia. So we had to leave pretty early.
Right.
And we're sitting there and we're waiting at my house, and Sal's there, and we're like, where's Fat? And so we're calling him, we're texting him, and finally he calls. He's like, hello? We're like, dude, you just wake up? He's like, oh, what time is it? He overslept. So we're like, we were supposed to have left 30 minutes ago. And so me and Sarah are like, dude, we got to go. We're leaving. So we left. And so it's funny that story's funny now because, Alex, you've met Fat, and him and I are usually, we're attached at the hip. Yep. We're attached at the hip pretty much, go and check out deals and stuff. So to know him now and to know that he he's overslept to go on our first deal to get our first deal closed. Pretty funny.
That's classic.
Yeah, but it was great, man. We sold those deals in November of last year, and everybody's happy. I know the TerraCap team was very happy with the outcome. Our team very happy. So I'm forever, whenever I tell Steve Hagenbuckle this, I say we're forever grateful. He'll say, hey, we're grateful for the opportunity. So it's kind of that good relationship that we have. It's very high level trust too.
That's awesome. Have you done more deals with TerraCap since then?
We haven't. We've looked at some deals together. Their model is a little bit similar to ours. They're real estate operators like we are. Not saying we won't, because we've looked at some deals and one reason or another they didn't work out. I would love to do a deal with them. I would put my money with them too. I think they're just a solid group, and what Steve's done over there is. Not to make this commercial about TerraCap, but
right,
but what they've built, I mean, it's great, man. They've done they're good shop. I really like those guys.
That's awesome. So over the last 4 years, I guess, what has been the focus of Willow Creek, and how do you see that shifting moving forward? Or is it, always going to be a similar basis as what you guys have built on?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, I'm a big believer that you either grow or you die.
Yep.
Right. So, we're not going to sit here and do the same thing we've always done. We've been fortunate over the last 4 years. Bob Gray, by the way.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I can't remember that. Yeah. We've been fortunate over the last 4 years. We've had a fair amount of success in the markets that we've focused on. we've been heavily in the Carolinas, as you guys know, specifically in the Triangle and the Triad, and have done a ton of deals there. And really what we were working on was perfecting, our process and building our platform, right? Like, how are we going to do things? We got a very defined investment strategy that we look for. And we've done about 20 or so acquisitions during that period of time. And we've done that over the last 4 years. But now we've tested and we think, not perfected it, but we've certainly gotten good at our formula. We're going to start trying it in other markets, right? Taking it out to other markets. We've done our first couple of deals in the DC area. We're under contract to buy a property in Denver, of all places.
Nice.
That's a market that we've been really, it's a market we've been targeting. We finally have the resources to go out there and do some deals there. I think we're going to do more than just one deal there. We do several over there. And so we're really trying to expand our platform. I think the last 4 years, I think we've had, by anybody's measure, I think we've been fairly successful. And if we continue doing what we've done over the last 4 years, we'll do pretty good. But, we think the last 4 years was, the platform building phase. Now it's incumbent upon us and our team to take that platform and build upon it, for the next 4 years. Right. And I think, where we're headed, I think we've got some real opportunity there, not just in multifamily. As you recall, my background, our background, we're investors and finance guys, right? So we're looking at exploring other asset types, within multifamily at the right time. I don't think the right time's there just yet. We're sort of peaking at some assets right now, but nothing's really struck our fancy yet. At the same time, along the way, we, as probably most sponsors do, is the dumb ones like us. We decided to dabble in property management, and it was an utter failure. I mean, it was, man. It was. We were just really bad at it, and we hired a team that we thought was a good team, invested a lot of money, and we weren't very good at it. So we fired ourselves. Yeah,
smart. It's a lot of people, a lot of groups that do that don't have the humility to admit their mistake, and they just keep chasing good money after bad, trying to make it work. When it's not one of your core competencies, and it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, that's right. And believe you me, it was very humbling to fire ourselves.
Yeah.
But Jad, you're right. It wasn't one of our core competencies. Somebody asked me, they said, Matt, how do you guys make money? How do you make your most money? And I said, well, we buy deals and we sell deals. That's right. That's where you make 90% of your firm's money. Yeah, you're spending 90% of the time on property management.
Right. Right.
So the equation didn't work. And, not to mention the performance of a lot of our assets was suffering too. So it just, at the end of the day, it became we swallowed our pride and became a no-brainer. And, and I'm glad we did, because it enabled us to focus on, our core competency in acquiring and asset managing deals, and executing our business plan. The other thing we've done too, along the way, we started our own construction business as well. So we're a licensed GC in probably a couple of dozen states right now, and we're doing. We started off just to manage our own CapEx projects and all our stuff in house. And over the last 2.5 years or so, it's evolved to the point where we're starting to work with some other sponsors from Florida all the way up to DC area, on some of their stuff. And we're actually getting ready to grow that business even more so, just outside of multifamily, but also into commercial and even government services. So that's a real big initiative for us.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So how are you guys, we talked about TerraCap. How are you guys capitalizing deals now?
Yeah. That's the question everybody wants to know, right? Everybody asks that, especially in brokerage. You guys always want to know, or sellers always want to know. We've been fortunate that we've been able to build and sustain a pretty sustainable or sizable network of private capital. From my background, it's kind of a natural platform or natural avenue for us. So we do, most of our deals now, we're capitalizing with private capital syndicating amongst our network. We've got a couple institutional groups that we'll work with from time to time. It's got to be the right deal, the right deal for them and for us.
Right.
But largely, I think right now our business goals are to do about 70% of our equity with private capital, and about 30% with institutional capital.
Interesting. And you guys,
I
was going to say, you guys also have the development piece going on too, right?
Yeah. So we're building a project right now in Blacksburg, Virginia, student housing project. We're getting ready to go in and partner with a group up here that we know really well on a development project in the DC area in Fairfax, where we're buying a kind of a strip center, fully occupied, but we're going to get it rezoned for probably 200 and some multi-units. So we're going to go through that process. That's a very exciting project because the location is just fantastic. And our interests are to obviously invest in it, get it rezoned, re-entitled, but then we will actually likely construct it once that's done.
I think that's a viable thesis moving forward too, especially as retail in the smaller mom and pop strip centers that had large acreage, right? Rezoning that into what could be multifamily or other uses.
Well, it provides a good exit strategy for those mom and pops, right?
Absolutely.
Right. And it's the only way you're going to find any sort of sizable land to do anything infill anymore without having to go through an arduous assemblage process.
Yeah.
We've got a local developer doing that, in South Tampa. They're buying an old strip center, and it's I can't remember the acreage, but it's large scale right on Gandy Boulevard, and they're knocking it down and they're going to do apartments there.
Yeah, it's funny. So we own our office right now is in like a little townhouse office park. So it's all little small offices. We have 2,000 square feet. It's when we bought it. It was like a doctor's office. We came in, gutted it, took it down to studs, and rebuilt it into our liking. And so we've grown to the point where we just need more space. I've got 13 people on most days, some days 15 people jammed into 2,000 square feet. Right.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So we're actively looking for some space. We're likely going to end up leasing space. We've looked for stuff to buy again. Couldn't find anything to buy, but we also said, okay, maybe we can find something we can build, find a piece of dirt somewhere and build something. And there, just to your point, there just isn't anything available in a location I'd want to be in that you can build without a big assemblage and going through some big, rezoning process.
You should send them across the street to the hotel. They can work out of the lobby.
Well, incidentally, you'll appreciate this. Incidentally, one of the places I mentioned one of the places we used to work out, it's called the Silverline Center in Tyson. They have space in that building that we're going to go check out tomorrow.
That's full circle.
Right? You got to do it just for nostalgia's sake, right?
Well, yeah, we almost have to do it for nostalgia's sake. And, I thought maybe we could just camp out there every day, but I think we had 15 people coming to work in the lobby every day.
They might get a little suspicious.
You'd have to buy a lot of coffee.
Yeah, for sure. And they don't even have beer in that lobby, so.
That's not as fun. So you mentioned about the management thing. I think this ties back into a question that, what struggles you've had as a firm, but more so as of late, I think a struggle that everyone had was last year, right? With COVID and trying to navigate through that. What did 2020 look like for you guys as a firm? And do you think, I know with self-managing it, do you think that COVID kind of amplified any issues you had managing and took a lot of time away from the acquisition side of things for you guys?
Yeah, for sure it did. So 2020, as it was for most people, was pretty challenging. And mostly it was challenging because it was so unknown, right? Nobody knew, last March, what was going to happen. I mean, we bought a student housing portfolio in Radford, Virginia, near Radford University. We closed on that deal on March 18th 2020.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah. The weekend before that is when every governor of every state decided to shut everything down. And we were like, holy crap, we're either like, this is either the dumbest move we've ever made or what. And it turned out well. We've been able to weather that. But that was the only acquisition we did in 2020. And, it wasn't for lack of trying. We were trying to buy, but there were the sellers, as you guys know, were a little bit squirrely until we got to the end of 2020. Yep. We got through the summer. And COVID did exacerbate the problems that we had self-managing. We had some properties that were stuck in really low occupancy. I think really low, like mid 80s, mid to high 80s in markets that were 94, 95, right? So we were very well underperforming the market. So you had low occupancy and pretty bad delinquencies, pre-pandemic.
Right.
So when that hit, it was like throwing gasoline on the fire, and so that was pretty challenging. Incidentally, our construction business did really well last year. We had a handful of exits last year too.
Yep.
So that certainly helped the lack of acquisitions. But yeah, we did one deal on the buy side in all of 2020. So we probably missed out on some opportunities too because we were too focused on trying to figure out the management side of things and solving a lot of the problems that we had over there. But I think one of the blessings that we've figured out in firing ourselves from property management was that we can scale infinitely now.
Yeah.
Right. So whenever we would consider going into a new market, we'd have to work with our property management team and say, okay, how are we going to manage this? And they'd say, well, we can fly there, once a month. We can say, okay, well, great. Well, how are we going to hire the on-site staff? And one of the things that we found to be challenging in property management was, being a smaller property manager company, being a newer property manager company, we just weren't attracting the best talent on site.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. So are you using one company across the board, or are you going best in class for each market you're going into?
Yeah, so we use one company for a lot of our deals in North Carolina, but we're looking for groups that are market specific. So the group that we hired out in Denver, all they do is deals in Colorado, and most of their units that they manage are in Denver.
Got it.
Right. So for us, going into a new market, that was important that we had somebody that was had a specialization in that market. And then on the student side, again, we've got a student group that we use out of Raleigh. We use Price a lot out of Raleigh for some of our student stuff.
Yeah.
They're very good. So yeah, we try to match the asset in the market with the right manager. There's a lot of really good large national managers out there, and they do a great job for a lot of your big unit count owners. I'm not sure they're the right fit for us.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And I think that, you become a number to them at some point, right?
Yeah, that's right. Unless we got 10,000 units with them, then we'll get some attention, but that's not likely to happen.
Yeah. What do you guys have a unit goal of what you would like to achieve? I mean, typically it seems like your hold period is 3 years or so. And is that part of just, where we are in the cycle and meeting the return goals and you can take chips off the table? What's the...
Yeah. I think so that our hold period is, the fact that we've been exiting a lot of things recently, it's largely a function of where we are in the cycle. We were aggressive buyers a couple of years ago in markets that you guys know have seen cap rates compressed to a point where nobody ever thought they were compressed to. Yeah. But yeah, from a unit count perspective, we're not long-term holders, from the standpoint of, we're sitting on $1 billion in cash. We just have to deploy it and we'll just put it to work and just hold it forever. As I said before, we're investors at heart, right? So our job is to deploy capital, get a good rate of return on it, and do it again.
Right.
And keep doing it over and over again.
And that makes sense.
And without having a management business to support, your unit count really doesn't matter. I mean, you can go, if it's makes sense for your investors to go sell 5 deals in a year, you can go sell 5 deals in a year.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Because it's right. Aggregation of unit count is less important because it's not supporting a certain business model that we have, right?
Right.
And I did feel, and I do feel that a lot of groups who self-manage, especially when you're starting off, it does become kind of a conflict in terms of, not a conflict of interest. I mean, this business is full with conflicts, but it becomes a conflict. Sometimes your investment goals are in conflict with, would you buy this deal if you didn't have a property management company you needed to support?
Right. Or the flip side is, we've got a client who's like, yeah, we'd love to sell that deal, but we just can't go below a certain unit count because we can't support our management, or we'd have to let people go that we don't want to let go.
I've gotten that answer more times than you can imagine. I've got a management company I have to keep afloat too.
It makes for a challenging business decision. And, your investors, do they want to hear that you got a management company to support so you can't sell that asset?
Right.
Yep, exactly.
Right.
MultiFamily Method is powered by Capstone Companies, the largest privately owned multifamily investment sales brokerage nationwide. Capstone Companies provides dedicated coverage to both primary and secondary markets throughout the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Midwest regions of the United States. Whether buying, selling, or refinancing, Capstone Companies is here to help. Simply put, Capstone is expertise, experience, extra mile. If you're interested in having Capstone provide a complimentary opinion of value on your multifamily asset, please visit us at capstone-companies.com.
Let's move on. And what's a current day look like for you?
I'm an early riser, mostly because I'm not a good sleeper. But I'm usually out of the bed at 6 a.m. every morning. I have a home gym. I work out Monday through Friday. The only time of the day I can work out. But I've always been a morning workout guy. To me, it's just perfect, right? And no distractions. I always thought of working out in the morning that, no matter what the day brings, if I accomplish nothing else, I've at least got my workout in.
Yep.
So do that. And then I usually take one of my kids to school. They go to different schools now, but they'll be in the same school next year. My son's in preschool still. My daughter's in first grade. So next year they'll be in the same school. So I take them to school. My daughter's going to be in school at 8. So I'll leave the house at 7:40, take her there and drop her off and use them in the office by 8:05. And from there, I always have a to-do list of things to do, but that usually goes out the window once people start rolling in for the day.
Jad and I were talking about that earlier, the open door policy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But I spend a lot of my day on the phone. I'm on the phone a lot, probably more so than anybody else in our company, whether it's talking with investors, whether it's negotiating a sales contract or a purchase contract, whether it's working with, helping develop business on the construction side. I'm on the phone a lot.
Or 100 brokers calling you.
Yeah.
100 brokers calling me or texting me or emailing me, most of which I know, a lot of them I don't know. I get a lot of calls from loan brokers, as I'm sure most everybody does too.
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah. I always found it interesting. So as a guy that started his career cold calling for a living, because I was a young stockbroker and, being right out of college, having no money and not knowing anybody with money, the only way to get clients is to just pick up the phone and just call hundreds of people. So, so I appreciate the hustle for people, cold calling and trying to, sell us a mortgage, but I just never understood people calling and they say, hey, you got this loan. Hey, any acquisitions we can help you out with? And I'm like, do you really think that I'm going to let you I'm going to trust you to close on this $30 million deal. Give me a $20 million loan. I've never even met you. Right. I appreciate the hustle. I just don't understand. I mean, if it works, God bless them. But, that's,
don't lead with the ask.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Ask me a few questions, get to know me a little bit first. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's, it's what we do as a relationship business anyways. So very rarely are you going to get anything done on the first time you call somebody. You're just trying to open a dialogue and.
Well, yeah, right. And, but these guys, I always joke. I'm like, these guys call us, we've got the best. We got these great rates available. I'm like, oh, so your Fannie loans are better than the other guys.
And then they go to,
but
then they go right to Arbor with it. It's like,
yeah, right. Exactly. And I'm like, even if their rates are better, I would rather even pay a little bit more for certainty of execution.
Right? For sure. Knowing that you're not going to get retraded on the back end. I mean,
yeah.
Right. But that's, I think that speaks to a little bit of kind of a bigger thing that we're all dealing with in our industry now is there's been a flood of new participants, I guess, in the market in the last really 5 years, but even in the last, 24 months. And so you're having to kind of work harder to build relationships. The people that were buyers 5 years ago are likely not the best buyers today or the most active buyers today. And every 12 months, there's, sort of a new winner for the best, the most active buyer in any given market in any given year. And it requires more from guys like us who have been around a little bit longer to continue to develop those relationships and not just rely on our prior relationships, whether it be, for you brokers, for us buyers or sellers. You got to work hard because there's a lot of new people in the market.
It's also vetting out who's real, right? We talk about this a lot, and all those participants who come in and say, "Oh, my partner has purchased 5,000 units." It's like, okay, what have you purchased? And I think we've seen it on deals we worked on together, Matt, where you have people that have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, I'll say we're lucky, fortunate. I think probably a better word. When we started the business, we're building this thing as a long-term business. We're not in here to try to make a few bucks and get out. But we've been fortunate over the last 4+ years, in that we've been able to establish pretty quickly a lot of credibility amongst the brokerage community, because we knew that one of the biggest challenges I knew we would have when we started the company was getting access to deals, because you guys, like you said, Alex, who the hell is Willow Creek?
Yeah,
right. 4 years ago, if you ran a process and we were in it, you wouldn't have awarded me the deal because you didn't know who the hell we were.
You would have had to overpay.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right. And substantially, I'm sure. So that's why, we were fortunate that we're able to buy our first deals off market from a group that, that was comfortable with us, that we had a good relationship with. And that really helped to establish sort of that springboard for us. And, since then, I take a lot of pride in the fact that we put every deal we put under contract, we closed at a contract price. We never retraded anybody. And there were times, let me tell you, we were well within our right to try to retrade. But
I can think of a deal.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We ended up closing that one at the contract price.
Yeah.
And that was a hard one.
Oh, what was that? Ended up being 65% occupied. Advertised.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was. So we're gonna do well on that deal, though. But, but yeah, that deal right there is the closest that we ever came to having to putting our foot down and saying, "You've got to give us a discount here, or else we're walking." That was the closest that we ever came.
Yeah.
But I think that's given us a lot of credibility amongst your community, the brokerage community, and that that we're a good buyer.
Absolutely, I think so. So what is that? You mentioned that you're looking at this as a long-term business. What is that? Where do you see yourself in the next 5-10 years?
think 5 years is easier than 10 years. But I think over the next 5 years, I think we're gonna enter an interesting part of the economic cycle here. I'm not sure how it's gonna play out. I've got my thoughts. I think it's going to be things to be very profitable for real estate investors, especially for guys that buy it right. You have to capitalize it properly, though. I think we have a good chance of hitting a very high inflationary environment over the next few years. But I mean, that's inevitable, man. There's so much like just cheap money just floating around the system.
Right.
So that's why we got to be flexible, and that's one of the things, and nimble, and that's one of the things that I like about the way we built our organization is that we are asset agnostic, right? So we can go to multifamily, we can go where we think the opportunity. We can sit on our hands too, by the way.
Right.
We don't have capital that we have to deploy, or else we lose it. A lot of these guys, they got use it or lose it capital. We don't have that. In our construction business, I see us really building out. I told you there's three verticals that we pursue. We got we got commercial, and then government. I really see us building out our government services capability in construction. We've got a lot of contacts, a lot of relationships in the DC area with firms or companies that they call them government contractors up here, but the companies that sell to government. I think there's a huge need. The government's never going to stop spending money.
Definitely not the next 4 years.
Yeah, that's right. So, it's the next 10 years. I'll be 56 in 10 years, which is really hard for me to fathom. But I'll be a young 56, hopefully, and hope I'm still coming to work every day. And in whatever new office, I don't know where that's going to be, but. What's important for us now too is, while we're still fairly young, it's important for us to start building our organization and building our team such that we can start to develop the next generation of talent here. People that can step in a leadership, more meaningful role in the event that one of us decides to retire or something happens to us, we can hand it off to somebody. I don't see myself ever retiring. I think I'll always be in the deal game. I like doing deals, whether it's real estate deals or private equity deals or whatever. I don't even know what retirement would look like, but
I think that's how a lot of us are, right? Yeah, entrepreneurial. How do you turn that off when that's what you know?
It is. Yeah, but at the same time, it allows me the freedom to. I coach my son's baseball team, for example.
Right.
Okay. He's 5 and a half. Right. And I'll continue. He's actually very good for a 5.5-year-old. He is, man. But I see myself in 10 years, going to his high school baseball games, right? And my daughter is like big into like singing and dancing. Hopefully, she continues to pursue that. I see her going to see her shows and stuff like that, and having. We're building a business where I've got the flexibility to do that. And that's very important to me because family is super important. Like I said earlier on in the conversation, how my dad came to my games and stuff, but my dad wasn't always around, right? It's just because he worked. He had to be there. And,
right.
I'm afforded the luxury that I can work around my own schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the great part about what we all do is you need a phone and maybe a computer, and you can get deals done from just about anywhere. So you've got the freedom and the flexibility to coach your kids or just, go on vacation or do whatever. Or, retirement could be, you do a couple deals a year and, collect rent checks on the balance of your portfolio. Right. I mean,
yeah, that's true. Cause what my days look like, cause I'm on the phone most of the day, right? I could be on the phone from anywhere. I'm not a cost accountant that comes to work every day and has to do journal entries all day.
That's right. You can be by the pool.
I don't even need a laptop, quite frankly. I just have a phone.
That's right. Well, let's move on to rapid fire questions. Jad, you want to lead it off?
Yeah. What's the best book you've read that has had a great impact on you?
Liar's Poker by Michael Lewis.
Okay.
The first book that I think the first book Michael Lewis ever wrote. I told you back early on, I had a very big fascination with like Wall Street and, investments. I read that first time in college. I think I was like a junior. I've since read it like 3 or 4 more times. Just love that book.
I have to check it out. What's a piece of advice that someone's given you that's helped you get to where you are today?
Yeah. Very simple. Focus on the what, not the how. And what that means is this: have a vision, like have a goal, be committed to it, and the how will sort of figure itself out, right? Most people, they say, I want to do something. I need a plan. I need this. I need all the research this. Well, that's bullshit, okay? Yeah, you need a plan. Yeah, you need to put in the right action, the right effort. But that's not the plan's not the most important thing. Focus on what you want to accomplish, what that vision is, whatever it is, whether it's work, family, school, whatever. Focus on that. And if you're intently focused on it, you'll figure it out.
If you could go back and change one thing in your career, what would it be?
That's a question. Jad, that's funny because I'm one of those people that never says that. I never say, if I could do it over again, I would do it this way. But if I could change one thing, I actually would have gone and worked on Wall Street as a trader in like the early 90s, mid 90s. That would have been fun.
Gordon Gekko.
I had some buddies that were there like mid late 90s. They definitely sounded like they had a good time.
I'm sure they did.
And then what's one thing that you've yet to accomplish that you hope to, or a goal that you've set out to do that you haven't accomplished yet?
I really want to focus on building a really sustainable construction business. Yeah. I know that's probably not the answer you were expecting, but to me, that's a challenge because I don't have a construction background.
Yeah.
And I've got a business background, and I think it'll really test my mettle a little bit. I think we've got a good team in place. I think we've got a good focus, and now we've got a lot of work to do, but I haven't accomplished that yet. I want to, I'd like to. You look excited about that, Jed.
I that's the one area of real estate that I think is like my weakest point. And so I do think about, understanding construction and really from, down to the screws would be something that would definitely benefit me. Plus I've built my own house and talked to just the markups that these GCs get to charge is very enticing as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's sometimes I ask myself, I was like, is this a business that we want to be in? Because it's a very low, despite the markup, it's a very low margin business as a GC. You've got to make up the volume. Our investment business, from a margin perspective, is so much more profitable.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's absurd, but if you apply a smaller margin over lots of big numbers, then that becomes more and more interesting. But it's a slog, man.
And you're only as good as and you're only as good as the subs that you have, right?
Yeah.
If they're no good, that's going to reflect poorly on you. So you really have to be. There's a lot of stuff that will affect how people evaluate you that are day to day out of your control.
That and any kind of quotes that you're given, right? Like lumber where it is, and then it skyrockets. And then like if you're doing a project, right? That risk is on the GC a lot of times, depending on how those contracts are set up. So that's right. And a lot of GCs are feeling it right now, with the cost of lumber being what it is. So it's an interesting business. I find it challenging. Yeah.
But somebody once told me, like, if you want to start a business, find a guy that's very profitable and still uses a fax machine. Right. So what that means is, there's a highly profitable business, innovate a little bit, right?
Right.
And then right. So, and I think construction to a large degree kind of fits that criteria.
Yeah.
Right. It's still very old school. It's still done in an old school sort of way. And not saying there haven't been innovators in there. There have been, but I think by and large, most, especially your subs, and these guys they're still doing things the way they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, there's not a lot of different ways to run plumbing or electric, right? Like it kind of is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a good example. Okay. So I'll give you a personal example. So I've got in my backyard, I've got this, got a fence, whatever. Got this this big wide open area that there's no tree or shrubbery covering. I want to put trees there. I put arborvitae, I think they're called. So they're little pine trees. And I want to get a dozen of them planted there to provide some privacy. And so I've talked to 3 different groups, landscaping companies, which are subs. And I've gotten 3 different prices, by the way. Mm-hmm. The most expensive guy wanted to charge me $1,200 installed per tree. $1,200.
Jeez.
And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. $1,200. Say, well, my cost is this, and here's my labor. And so it's okay. So then I talked to my landscaping company, and they came in at $450 a tree. $450 a tree. So a third. I'm like, okay, that sounds reasonable. I asked around. Then I finally found this other company, $250 a tree.
The exact same thing. I just put 14 palms in and rock mulch beds. The exact same thing happened to me. Literally, The guy tried to charge me $700 for a tree that the lower guy charged me $200, and tried to charge me $3,000 a yard for rock that I could go to the shop down the street and get for $500. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And, it's sad too, because these guys, they see where you live or whatever, or they think, oh, I'm gonna make a few bucks off this guy. Little does he know, I own a fucking construction company. I could have sent him business if I, if I knew that, if I knew his prices were good.
Right.
And, but you can't treat people like that. You can't take advantage of people like that. And I think in the construction or the contracting business, a lot of guys do, a lot of subs do, especially. And it's, so, I think there's a lot of opportunity there in that business. We're still working our way through it, but it's exciting at the same time.
Yeah. I think it kind of relates to real estate as well. And what we do, we're still somewhat analog, right? Everything's marketed online, but you're not going to buy a property almost ever, unless it's just some ridiculous deal that you're not going to go see, right? Touch, feel, see it, everything. So, I think there's only so much technology you can put into that. Yeah,
that's right. And the other thing where I think it's analogous to real estate is, all business is personal, right?
Yep.
When people say, it's not personal, it's business, that's bullshit. All business is personal. And you want to do business with people, at least I want to do business with people that are going to do well, they'll treat you right. They say what they're going to do, they do what they're going to say. And that, to me, that goes a long, and you're not trying to screw anybody over.
Yep.
And to me, that goes a long way, right? And there are people in this business that don't operate that way, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And and those people will never do a deal with us again.
Right. We won't ask names.
No, I won't give names.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Matt. It's a pleasure having you, and appreciate your insights.
Yeah. Well,
we just got to get you back down to Tampa for a deal.
Yeah.
And for some Cuban some Cuban food.
Some Cuban food, man. Check out the rainbow. I'm telling you, Jad. It's
all right. I'll have to check it out for sure. For sure.
I'm booking a flight down.
Yeah, you should. I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to MultiFamily Method. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps our podcast get discovered by other savvy investors like yourself. Subscribe to MultiFamily Method for free on your podcast platform of choice. Find out more about Capstone Companies at capstone-companies.com. MultiFamily Method is executive produced by Capstone Companies. Audio production for the podcast provided by Andy Go of Gojo Studios, and video production by Yash Mystery of Mystery Projects.